proposing to your girlfriend should be one of the happiest moments of your life, right? That's what the movies tell you. You get the ring, plan the perfect setting, and drop to one knee while everyone claps and sighs. Simple, sweet, foolproof. Unless, of course, you're me. Hi, I'm Thomas, 30 years old, hopeless romantic, and apparently the punchline in my own love story. For the last 3 months, I've been planning the proposal of a lifetime for my girlfriend, Lori. I even bought the ring, a beautiful diamond solitaire that cost me more than my car. Lori has expensive taste, but hey, she's worth it, or so I thought. Everything was going according to plan. I'd made a reservation at this ridiculously overpriced rooftop restaurant downtown. You know the type, twinkly lights, overpriced cocktails, a view that screams Instagram me. But as the big day approached, something started gnawing at me. Call it gut instinct or the curse of having too much time to overthink, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. You see, Lori is, well, let's just say she enjoys the finer things in life. Designer handbags, fancy dinners, trips to discover herself in exotic locations, all of which seemed a little too convenient for someone who's supposedly in love with my boring, budget-conscious self. Enter Mike, my best friend since high school and the kind of guy who could charm his way out of a speeding ticket. Mike's the type of person who can flirt with a wall and somehow get its phone number. He's also the one person I trust to tell me when I'm being an idiot. Dude, I said one night over beers. Do you think Lori, I don't know, loves me for me? Or for the stuff I give her? Mike snorted into his drink. Oh, Tommy boy. If you're asking that question, you already know the answer. But I don't know, I insisted. That's the problem. I need proof. Mike grinned, a mischievous glint in his eye. Then let's get some proof. His plan was simple, almost laughably so: create a fake social media profile, slide into Lori's DMs, and see how she reacts. That's insane, I said, shaking my head. It's genius, Mike countered. Trust me. If she's loyal, she'll shut it down immediately. If not, well, you'll know. I hated how much sense it made. A few days later, Mike showed me the fake account. His alias? Mark Stone, a wealthy, mysterious art dealer with just the right amount of rugged charm. Honestly, even I wanted to date this guy. We sent Lori a message, something casual but flattering. Hey, stumbled across your profile. You have great style. Would love to chat sometime. I told myself she wouldn't respond. Lori loved me. She wouldn't give this guy the time of day. She replied within 10 minutes. Her response was polite but intrigued. Thank you. That's so sweet of you to say. What kind of art do you deal in? Mike raised an eyebrow. Well, that's not exactly a shutdown. It's harmless, I said quickly, ignoring the sinking feeling in my stomach. She's just being friendly. But over the next few days, the messages kept coming. Friendly turned into flirty, and flirty turned into something that made my stomach churn. Lori told Mark how much she loved luxury items, how she'd always dreamed of finding someone who could spoil her. And then came the kicker: what's your favorite thing to gift someone special? Asking for a friend. I stared at the screen, my chest tightening. Well, Mike said, clapping me on the shoulder. Looks like you've got your answer. But I wasn't ready to let go, not yet. If Lori wanted to play games, fine. Two could play. So, there I was, sitting on Mike's couch, staring at my girlfriend's flirty messages to a guy who didn't even exist. I mean, Mark Stone? Really? The name sounded like a bad soap opera character. But Lori? Oh, she was eating it up. Mike leaned back, grinning like the Cheshire Cat. So, what's the next move, Tommy boy? Are we burning the bridges or building a bigger fire? I sighed, rubbing my temples. I don't know. I can't just accuse her without more. More? Mike scoffed. What, you need her to send her shoe size and a shipping address for Mark's gifts? The scary part? That didn't seem far off. Over the next week, I watched the conversation between Lori and Mark unfold like a slow-motion car crash. It started with harmless banter, then snowballed into, well, something a lot less harmless. Mark casually mentioned his wealth, luxury cars, a penthouse in the city, a yacht named Serendipity. Thanks, Mike, for the over-the-top creativity. Lori responded with emojis, smiling faces, winks, and, of course, the inevitable. Then came the moment I'd been dreading. So, Lori typed, if I were to hypothetically pick something from a wish list, what kind of gifts do you think you'd enjoy giving? Hypothetically, of course. Mike whistled, low and impressed. She's not just dipping a toe in the water. She's cannonballing into the deep end. I felt my stomach twist, but I couldn't look away. Mark replied smoothly, I'm all about making someone feel special. What's on your wish list, Lori? And Lori? Oh, she didn't hesitate. I've always dreamed of owning a classic Chanel bag. Black leather, gold chain. Timeless, right? Timeless, sure. Also worth more than my rent. Tom, buddy, Mike said, his tone almost gentle. You've got your proof. She's not just playing along, she's working the angles. I nodded, my hands clenched into fists. But anger wasn't my only emotion. There was hurt, too, in this horrible mix of humiliation and disbelief. Okay, I said finally. Let's push this further. Mike raised an eyebrow. Further? Haven't we hit rock bottom already? Not yet, I said, my jaw tightening. I need to know just how far she's willing to go. Mark stepped up his game. He promised Lori that he'd take care of her, even hinting at sending her a small token of appreciation. Lori's response? Pure enthusiasm. You're too sweet. I can't wait to see what you pick. Sweet. Right. That was one word for it. Meanwhile, I started playing my own role in this twisted little drama. At home, I acted like nothing was wrong, greeting Lori with a smile and pretending I wasn't watching her betray me in real time. How was your day? I'd ask, my tone casual. Great, she'd reply, kissing my cheek. Work was busy, but you know how it is. I wanted to scream, to confront her, to throw her phone out the window. But instead, I smiled back and said, yeah, I know. Because this wasn't over. Not yet. The breaking point came when Lori sent Mark her address. It's just so you can mail the Chanel bag, she wrote, followed by a laughing emoji. No pressure, of course. Pressure? Mike said, staring at the screen. Tom, she's practically sending him a shopping list. I nodded, the knot in my chest tightening. She's done. But I'm not confronting her yet. I've got one last thing to set up. What are you planning? Mike asked, his tone a mix of curiosity and caution. I smiled, a cold, determined smile that didn't reach my eyes. A dinner she'll never forget. As I left Mike's place that night, I felt something shift. Lori had shown me who she was. Now it was my turn to show her who I could be. You know what they say about revenge, it's a dish best served cold. In my case, it was being served at a high-end Italian restaurant with white tablecloths and overpriced wine. I'd made the reservation under the guise of celebrating us. Lori, of course, was thrilled. She'd spent the afternoon getting her nails done and gushing about the dress she planned to wear. Meanwhile, I spent the afternoon making sure everything was in place for the grand finale. When the night arrived, Lori looked stunning, I'll give her that. She wore a sleek black dress that hugged her curves, her signature designer heels, and a smile that could have fooled anyone except me. You're quiet tonight, she said as we were seated. Just soaking it all in, I replied, swirling my glass of wine like I wasn't about to detonate her world. The waiter brought the appetizers, and Lori was in her element, chatting about work, friends, and some influencer's latest must-have collection. I nodded along, pretending to care, while mentally rehearsing my lines. The moment came during dessert. The waiter set down a tiramisu for Lori and a cappuccino for me. I reached into my pocket, pulling out a small velvet box, the kind that screams engagement ring. Her eyes widened, and for a split second, I saw genuine excitement. "Oh, Tom," she whispered, her voice soft. "Is this?" I opened the box and set it on the table. Inside was a single key. Lori blinked, her confusion quickly turning to irritation. "What's this?" she asked, forcing a laugh. I leaned back, smiling calmly. "It's the key to your apartment. I thought it'd come in handy when you're packing your things." Her jaw dropped, and the color drained from her face. What are you talking about?" "Oh, come on, Lori," I said, my voice cold but firm. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out? Mark Stone, ring any bells?" Her eyes darted around the room, panic flashing across her face. "I don't know what you're talking about," she stammered. "Sure you do," I said, pulling out my phone and placing it on the table. The screen lit up with a screenshot of her messages to Mark. "Chanel bag. Black leather, gold chain. That's pretty specific, don't you think?" I said, arching an eyebrow. She reached for the phone, but I slid it out of her reach. "Don't worry, I've got backups," I added, smirking. Lori's tone shifted from denial to indignation. "It was just a joke," she said defensively. "I wasn't serious." "Oh, of course," I replied, sarcasm dripping from my words. "Because sharing your address and asking for luxury gifts is such a hilarious punchline." Her eyes narrowed, and she leaned forward. "You set me up." "That's manipulative, Tom." "Manipulative?" I repeated, laughing bitterly. "That's rich, coming from the woman who's been running a side hustle scamming guys for designer handbags." Lori's face twisted in anger, but she didn't deny it. She knew the jig was up. "You don't understand," she said, her voice shaking. "It's not like I was cheating. It's just fun. A game." I shook my head, my smile fading. "A game? Lori, I was planning to spend my life with you. I bought a ring, for God's sake. And all this time, you were playing games?" "No. I'm done." The waiter approached, looking uneasy. "Is everything all right here?" "Oh, it's perfect," I said, standing up and pulling out my wallet. I tossed a few bills on the table. "This should cover it." I turned back to Lori, who was now sitting in stunned silence. "Enjoy the tiramisu," I said. "It's on me." And with that, I walked out, leaving her with the check, the dessert, and a very bitter aftertaste. Walking out of that restaurant felt like stepping into a whole new world. The cool night air hit me like a wake-up call, washing away the anger and disbelief that had been simmering for weeks. Lori was officially out of my life, or so I thought. I had barely made it to my car when my phone buzzed. It was Lori. "Of course." "Tom, please, we need to talk," her message read. I stared at the screen, debating whether to block her number right then and there. But curiosity got the better of me. "What's there to talk about?" I replied. Her response came almost instantly. "I made a mistake. Can we meet? Please, just give me a chance to explain." I rolled my eyes, tossing the phone onto the passenger seat. "Explain?" She'd explained plenty back at the table, and none of it made her look any better. Still, a part of me wanted closure. We met the next day at a small cafe, neutral territory. Lori showed up looking contrite, her makeup understated and her outfit casual, like she was trying to channel her girl next door charm. "Thanks for meeting me," she said, her voice soft. "Make it quick," I replied, crossing my arms. She launched into a rehearsed monologue about how she'd lost sight of what really mattered and how the whole thing with Mark was just stupid fun that got out of hand. "I didn't mean to hurt you, Tom," she said, her eyes wide and teary. "I love you. I really do." I almost laughed. "Love me? Lori, you were trying to scam a fictional guy out of a Chanel bag. How exactly does that scream love?" She flinched but kept her composure. "It wasn't about the bag," she insisted. "It was validation. I guess I wanted to feel special. Well, congratulations, I said dryly. You're special, all right. The kind of special they write cautionary tales about. Lori reached across the table, her voice trembling. I'll change, Tom. I'll prove it to you. Just give me another chance. I stared at her hand, then at her face. There was a time when I would have caved, when those tears and that plea would have worked. But not anymore. I'm sorry, Lori, I said, standing up. But I'm looking for someone to share a life with, not someone who's building a collection of designer handbags. Her tears turned to anger, but I didn't stick around to hear what she had to say. Later that evening, I called Mike to give him the play-by-play. She actually said it wasn't about the bag, I said, laughing into the phone. Classic, Mike replied. What's next? She claimed she was hacked. She can claim whatever she wants, I said, staring out the window at the city lights. I'm done with her. That night, for the first time in a long time, I slept peacefully. Lori's drama was no longer my problem, and the weight of her lies had finally lifted. But I wasn't just done with Lori, I was done being the guy who let people walk all over him. It was time to start putting myself first. Breakups are supposed to feel like the end of the world, but honestly, walking away from Lori felt more like escaping a burning building. Sure, there were still a few emotional blisters, but the fresh air of freedom was worth it. The next morning, I woke up to a clear inbox, an empty calendar, and no texts from Lori. She must have finally gotten the message. Mike, of course, didn't waste the opportunity to check in. Dude, he said when I answered the phone, are you alive, or did Lori guilt you into buying her that Chanel bag after all? I'm alive, I replied, smirking. And no, she's not getting the bag. In fact, she's not getting anything from me ever again. Attaboy, Mike said. So, what's next? Rebound? Revenge? Or are you going full hermit mode? Neither, I said. I'm just moving on. Moving on wasn't as easy as it sounded. Sure, the drama was over, but the echoes of Lori's betrayal lingered. I couldn't help but wonder how I'd missed the signs. So, I threw myself into work, into catching up with friends I hadn't seen in months, and even into a new gym membership, because why not embrace the cliché? It was surprisingly therapeutic. One day, while scrolling through social media, I stumbled across Lori's profile. She hadn't posted anything since our infamous dinner, but the comments on her last photo were telling. Hope you're doing okay, girl. Stay strong, Lori. I rolled my eyes. Lori, the perpetual victim. It didn't surprise me that she'd spun the narrative to make herself look like the wounded party. But here's the thing, I didn't care. A week later, Mike convinced me to join him at a trivia night at the local pub. It's time you got out there, he said, dragging me out of my apartment. I wasn't exactly in the mood to mingle, but it turned out to be the best decision I'd made in weeks. At the pub, I met a woman named Claire. She was sharp, funny, and had this way of looking at you that made you feel like the only person in the room. You're pretty good at trivia, she said after our team won. Years of random facts bouncing around in my head, I replied. Turns out heartbreak is great for memory retention. She laughed, a genuine, warm laugh that made me realize just how much I'd been missing that sound. By the end of the night, Claire and I had exchanged numbers. It wasn't love at first sight, but it was something real, something honest. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like myself again. The next morning, Mike called for the post-trivia recap. Claire, he said, his tone teasing. You gonna tell her about the whole Lori and Mark Stone fiasco? Not unless she asks, I replied, chuckling. That's a chapter I'm ready to close. And just like that, life moved on. Lori became a memory, a cautionary tale about what happens when you mistake infatuation for love. As for me, I was finally building the life I deserved, one step at a time. You know, they say hindsight is 20/20, but for me, hindsight felt more like a highlight reel of red flags I'd willfully ignored. Lori wasn't the love of my life, she was the cautionary tale that led me to realize what I actually deserved. In the weeks after our dramatic split, I settled into a routine that didn't revolve around anyone but myself. Work was steady, trivia nights with Mike became a regular thing, and I even started taking an online course on photography, something I'd always been curious about but never made time for. One afternoon, as I was scrolling through my emails, I stumbled across a promotional ad for the rooftop restaurant where I'd almost proposed to Lori. The irony made me laugh. Out of curiosity, I checked their reservations page. Fully booked for the next 2 months. Good for them. Maybe someone else's dream night was actually going to work out there. Later that week, Mike and I grabbed lunch, and he couldn't resist bringing up Lori one last time. "You think she's out there conning another guy for a Chanel bag?" he asked, grinning over his burger. "Probably," I said, shrugging. "But she's not my problem anymore." "Damn right she's not," he replied, raising his drink. "To new beginnings." "To new beginnings," I echoed, clinking my glass against his. As for Claire, things were progressing slowly but naturally. We'd been on a few dates, nothing too serious, but enough for me to realize there were people out there who didn't need grand gestures or fake personas to feel valued. One evening, after a particularly fun trivia night, she asked me why I'd been single for so long. "Oh, you know," I said, smirking. "Just had to clear out some designer baggage." She laughed, not pressing for more. And for that, I was grateful. The final nail in the Lori chapter came one day when I received a message from her. "Hey, Tom. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for everything. I hope you're doing okay." I stared at the message for a moment before deleting it. No response. No need. Because I was okay. Better than okay, actually. Life doesn't always give you a neat, happy ending, but sometimes it gives you exactly what you need, a fresh start, a little clarity, and the reminder that the only person you really need to impress is yourself. And that's a life I was more than ready to embrace. Subscribe to never miss a new story and discover even more captivating tales.